Welcome everyone to HRC's panel discussion about the documentary Mama Gloria and the experience of being Black and transgender now and then. We hope you all had a chance to watch the documentary and that, like me, you are amazed by the courage, resilience, and brilliance of Mama Gloria. My name is Gia Parr and my pronouns are she, her. I'm an HRC youth ambassador and a proud trans girl and I'm currently a high school senior. It's an honor to be able to be here and moderate this discussion, and it's my first time ever moderating too. So now I'd like to introduce three fabulous women. One of them happens to be my mother and filmmaker, Luchina Fisher. We also have legendary Gloria Allen, the subject of the documentary Mama Gloria. And we have Tori Cooper, Director of Community Engagement for HRC's Trans Justice Initiative. I'm in such wonderful company tonight, and I'm excited to have a conversation across generations and across experience. We will be taking some questions from the audience, and we'll start with some questions already prepared for the panelists. First, I want to say that as a trans team, this film meant a lot to me, and getting to know Mama Gloria has really changed my life. I hope that other young people, trans or cis, LGBTQ or straight, can learn and appreciate the impact Mama Gloria's life has on all of us. Tori, this question's for you. It is Trans Awareness Week, and HRC wanted to make sure people are aware of Mama Gloria and her story. What do you think are some of the most important lessons from Mama Gloria's life? What does it mean to trans women to have role models and mentors like Mama Gloria?
First, thank you so much for having me. Gia, I am so proud of you. So very, very proud.
Thank you.
You're already a pro. You've got this. And what an honor it is to be here with your mom and also with Mama Gloria. So with the niceties out of the way, Trans Awareness Week is really, really important because it's an opportunity for us to highlight some aspects of our community which folks may not know of and may not have heard of. This week at HRC, we're bringing about an anti-violence report, a violence report. We're talking about trans and gender non-binary youth. We're having programs like this where we have opportunities to share with legends and legends in the making like you and Mama Gloria, and then also have opportunities for folks to hear our perspective in ways that give full rounded pictures of who we are as people, as individuals, and also as community. And then Trans Awareness Week leads up into Trans Day of Remembrance, which we're recognizing on Friday, where we honor all the lives lost that we're aware of over the course of the year. And that's something that's recognized all over the world on the same day, November 20th each year. So hopefully folks will also join us at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday as well. And I hope I answered your question.
Great. Yes, you did. Thank you. And this next question is for Gloria. Gloria, you are described as a legend, and I totally agree with that. What does it mean to you, and what do you think is the most legendary part about the life you have lived?
Well, I really don't consider myself a legend, but I've been put that on me, and I'm so proud that I'm able to talk about it because the basic ingredients for me is love, understanding, and to be educated. Because so many people are out here, they don't know what a transgender woman is or a man. And they don't take time out to find out because they've heard so many bad things about the trans people. And I really try to advocate love to everybody. And Black lives matter, but all lives matter, And trans women, we have been thrown up under the bus, beat up, murdered, and this is all done by people who don't understand us. mind if they take out the time to share love with us, it would be a better world.
Thank you for that message. I think that was really important. So now, this question's for my mom. So you got to meet Mama Gloria's family while making this film, and we all got to see how supportive and loving her cousins are, and how supportive her friends are, and what a terrific support network she has. From your perspective, how has Gloria's family and friends helped to shape who she is? In turn, what impact does Gloria have as an unapologetic trans woman on her family and friends?
Oh, that's a good question. And you're doing a fabulous job, Gia.
Thank you.
Mommy's very proud. Oh, I love Gloria's family. I feel like, first of all, Gloria is family, that we became family through the making of this film. And by extension, I felt that same love and welcoming from your cousins, who I think are just hilarious and terrific people. But what it goes back to just what you said, love. The love is so apparent in your family, from your brother, who I met briefly, to your cousins, from the description of your mom, your grandmother, your aunt, how much those women meant to you. I know that you meant as much to them. And I just think that is so powerful. It's what attracted me to your story. And I think that was what resonated with me most, was seeing a story of a trans person within the Black family, within the Black community, who was loved and embraced. And even your church community was so fabulous to you as you came back to visit. In terms of the impact that you've had on them, oh my goodness. I just think of the moment in the film where Charlotte is recalling the party where you brought all your friends, and and all of her friends were trying to get their numbers, and it's like you were the life of the party, and I have the feeling that you are the life of the family, that you have brought color and rainbows and just joy and hilarity to the family. I don't know if you know, Gloria also does stand-up comedy. I mean, it's so apparent because you're just hilarious. And I think you really do bring love and light to your family. It's magical to see.
Thank you so much for singing that. And honey, I love you and Gia to no end. And now I'm falling in love with Tori. Everybody is so fabulous. I love you all.
Yes, I think spread like the message of love, and it's so important that us transgender people have that loving and supportive community and loving and supportive families. And just the fact that Mama Gloria is able to thrive with her family, it's just so important to see. So now for this next question, this is for Tori. In Gloria's coming of age years, there wasn't even a language to define people who are trans. The language was very limited and pretty toxic at that. How has the evolution of language and the ability for folks to define who they are helped to change people's understanding of trans experience, in particular in the Black community?
No, language, just like for some people, gender or gender identity or sexuality, it's much more fluid than any of us often think of it. And we saw that in the film. We saw that words at the beginning and the way that even Mama Gloria described herself, they transitioned a little play on words throughout the film and throughout her life. And I think that's really, really important, that even words don't need to be so binary. One of the most there were a number of things you said in there that I wrote down, but there were two in particular that really stuck with me. And one really speaks about language. And when you described your experience of womanhood, walking fully into womanhood, what you said was, the George stepped out of my body and went about his business, which I think is a great way of expressing what many of us feel, have felt, and yearn to feel. It is above words. There was a time when, and depending on where your family is in the country or wherever they're from in the world, there's certain words that they used to describe anything other than folks who were just like them. And some of those words really, really hurt. So I'm very, very glad that even when in our local communities and in our born families and our chosen families, that we've created new words that more aptly describe our experiences. And folks who haven't seen it or have seen it, there's so many different transitions of words and experiences that they saw. And Gia, you are one for, your generation, again, the words that you all use to describe your experiences and your beings, I think, are so absolutely powerful as well. I couldn't have imagined those things. I'm about halfway between both of you. I'm 50. So we encompass quite a few years between the three of us, or the four of us. I certainly don't want to leave you, Luchina, out. But there are a lot of words and yet a lot of transitioning and a lot of words still yet to describe future experiences as well.
Thank you. I think words are so important, and you really summed that up beautifully. So now this question is for Gloria. You shared that your mother struggled and didn't nurture you when you were young. Your father was a mixed bag too, but ultimately they both accepted you, and they really did have your back, especially during some very tough times. What did it mean to you, and what does it mean now when you look back that they were able to embrace you so many years ago?
Yes, I had some tough times growing up as a kid. And my mother, she always would tell me, you're special. It's something about you that, you light up the room when you come in it. And she said, oh, you got the most prettiest smile, the dimples and everything. But my father, he was a little bit on the shaky side with me because he didn't know how to accept me then. But as time went on, my mother, she wore the pants in the house, and she would talk to my dad and tell him, you're going to have to accept George for the way he is. And I just, loved my mother so much about that. She struggled with my needs and she struggled with her needs. My mother was manic depression, but she did her best to raise me. And she told me on her deathbed, she asked me, she said, was I a good mother? And I didn't know what to say, but I told her, I said, Mom, you did the best you could. And she did. She was there to fight my battles with me. And then my dad finally came along and he loved me to no end. And I remember one time sitting on the porch with my mother and my father, and they were having some people to come over, and they arrived, and I was sitting there, and my father's co-workers said to him, who is that? And my daddy responded in such a grand way. he said, "Oh, that's my daughter from New York." And I looked at him and I had to cry because this man changed, And so, with that being said, I knew that they loved me and I loved them to no end. And the world was getting better for me, but I still was being protected by my family. And I had one more family that I cared about that lived in this rough neighborhood. And her name was Mama Sugar. So that's where I think I got my mama, Mama Gloria. But Mama Sugar, I would go across the street and be in her house with her kids and husband, but they didn't care about my transitioning because they said I was a beautiful, loving, caring person. And I thank all the people that nourished me. They mold me into a good person, and that love still lives on in my life.
Thank you, Mama Gloria, for that. And I just wanted to add that when I transitioned, my parents supporting me, it was so vital. And having my community support me too, it just made me feel so loved. And so it was just amazing to have that support around me. And the fact that your parents supported you was really beautiful to hear.
Yes.
So now I'm going to ask my mom a question about myself, kind of. You're raising a trans daughter, me. How does the personal role as a mom of a trans child inform you to approach telling Mama Gloria's story? Do you think it changed your lens in terms of how you see Gloria? And what do you want people to learn about and from her?
Ooh, that's like a 3-part question.
Yeah.
Wow. So, of course, Gia, you inspire me with your bravery, really. At 13, to state, "This is who I am," to be so authentically yourself. That actually gave me, I'm going to get emotional. That actually gave me strength to really step into being my full authentic self, and expressing my creative self. Of course, I love being your mom and your brother's mother. I love being a mom and all that entails, including driving y'all everywhere, showing up for as many events as possible. But I'm also a storyteller and was a storyteller before I had you all. And I feel like this story of Gloria's life, it came to me. I mean, I didn't know about Gloria before my friend Patrick reached out to say, there's this woman who's looking for someone to help her write her memoir. And I was just completely struck by the fact that she did have the same love that I give to you as a mom. I was just really struck by this story of a mother's love, and that was the story I wanted to tell. And I think I couldn't have told it if I had not gone on this journey with you as your mom. And so I thank you for, inspiring me, for taking me on this journey. I think it's really important for other people to know that this doesn't have to be a completely scary overwhelming, anxiety producing experience. Because actually, when you get past all of that, you see how wonderful your world is, how much it is expanded by new experiences, by actually just seeing your kids as who they are. So you've taken me on this journey, and I think with the film, I really wanted to, and it is dedicated to you. we talked about this because I said, do you remember when I said, I have something to ask you, how would you feel if I dedicated the film to you? And do you remember what you said?
Did I say, at first I was like, no? Or did I say yes at first? I can't even remember.
I think you gave me a little side eye.
I don't even know.
Well, you actually said you were surprised, but you said that would be great, Mom. You said something like, that would be all right, Mom. And you had a big smile on your face. But I really wanted this to be, something that you and your generation, I think, could learn about those who came before you, but also you could see a path to your future. That your future can look like growing old and having a wonderful, full, meaningful life. That was a message I really, really wanted to share with you at a time when that's not what we often hear about Black trans women. So I just hope that, with my work, I can help pave the way and make the world a better place as you move through it.
Thank you for that. And thank you for always being there for me, even in my bratty moments. So thank
bratty,
you. And that was really, you never know. And that was really special. So thank you. This next question is for Tori. So Gloria shared about the ball scene, about the clubs, about finding community at the Center on Halsted in Chicago. And now she lives in LGBTQ housing. What kind of impact do these spaces have for young trans people, both informal, house mothers and ballroom scenes, or formal, for example, trans-specific programs, LGBTQ centers, etc.? And why is it important for us to support these spaces, especially those that are for Black and Brown trans people?
Oh, an excellent question. So there were several things, but there were two things I think that developed this theme, certainly throughout the film, and even throughout all the conversations with Mama Gloria. And those are love, or three things: love, family, and wanting more. Never settling. And consistently wanting more, and even thirsting and being hungry for more. And so what I think many folks get out of the ballroom scene or get out of the house family scene is they get a sense of love. They are folks who create these family units, perhaps when their born families didn't accept them in their fullness, or didn't love them enough, or didn't love them in the way that they needed. So folks get that. And then folks often get opportunities for growth in ballroom. You can be great this year, but you need to be even greater next year. You can look fierce this year, but you need to look even fiercer for the next event. And so there's also some friendly competition there. And then the wanting more part, which again, we heard constantly in various different ways as you were telling your story. You wanted more. You wanted more for your life. You went back to school more than once. You worked and hustled and did what you needed to do in order to get more. And even in conversation that we had before this call, you talked about wanting more. And that's really, really important, because when our born family unit isn't able to provide access and opportunity, like all of us need, and opportunities to feel love and to share opportunities for growth, then we choose to find them elsewhere. And I think for those who seek to find the best out of the house and the ball community, there's certain validation that comes with that I think if we had at home, some wouldn't seek there, but because that can be such a strong and influential and positive and affirming space, I wholeheartedly encourage it. I mean, we have a great example of someone who went through that scene and has done well for herself. I mean, we're sitting here because of Mama Gloria. And so there are opportunities there to get everything that you need when you have folks, when you have sisters and sister figures, and when you have cousins and cousin figures and folks who depend on you. There's a give and take in those relationships that mimic and sometimes replace those other familiar relationships. And so they can be really, really defining and just provide great opportunities for growth. So I'm very, I see so much good that comes out of it, great opportunities to meet new folks that you might not meet walking down the street. And so I'm thankful that folks find community where they need to.
Yes, like that and your chosen family, it's so important. Just having, even if your support system's really small, it's just vital that transgender people and all people have a support system. So now I want to direct the conversation a different way. Gloria, you survived a lot of pain, violence, and rejection. We've made a lot of progress, yet we know that trans women, Black trans women in particular, are far too often the victims of physical and sexual violence. We helped you persevere, during the worst times. And what have you seen in other trans women that has helped them as well? Do you want me to repeat that by any chance? I kind of messed it up at the end.
No.
Okay.
I understood what you were saying. Okay, being a Black trans woman in a Black community, it was so much dislike about me. And I was a fighter. I didn't give in, and I wasn't about to give up. I would walk my streets, go where I want to go. Rocks were thrown at me. People would stop and cuss me out and laugh at me to no end. But you know what? I didn't give a run over shoe about it. But I knew that when I go back home, my mother's there, my grandmother's there, and my father's there. And they would ask me, did you run into any problems? And I would tell them, yes, I did. But believe me, I could handle my business, and I did. So I remember one time a group of boys chased me home. And I had to laugh because my grandmother was out there watching them chase me home. And my grandmother got up against the building and she told me get up against the building with her. And baby, we did a job on them. It was about 5 boys. And I had to laugh. And my mother told me, she said, well, they didn't know about your grandmother. I said, they sure didn't, but I knew what she could do. But saying that the neighborhood changed for me because they were afraid of my grandmother and they were afraid of me. And I had family members everywhere. And like the ball scene going to the ball, it was like, you know, I was in a history book all these trans women and people and all these gowns, and oh, it was fabulous. So like they said, it takes a village to raise a child. And I was in that village and they taught me, they raised me, and I now can pass that on because I do, you know, when somebody's mistreating a trans woman or a trans man, I step in and I help out. You know, you don't do that, and you're not going to do it in front of me. And if they need some food or need some money, I help out because that's the way my mother and grandmother did. They would set a plate at the table and I would look at them. I said, well, what is this for? My mother and grandmother said, you never know who needs a good meal. And this is for that guest. And she did that because my mother was so fabulous. And I remember a homeless lady with 2 kids, and my mother took them into our house and she fed them, she clothed them. And I said, oh, this woman is just an amazing woman. And I want to be like my mother and grandmother. And I turned out to be like them. So I'm blessed because they taught me how to love and how to give and how to listen, you know, listening to the homeless children, trans children, sit down and give them a good ear. And I did. And, you know, that meant so much to me. And like Gia, your mother and you are 2 fabulous women, and you all remind me of my mother and me, you know, and I'm so proud of Gia. And oh, Luchina, I can't describe the words that I want to say. You are like a diamond and a ruby on the ship, and you keep on going, and you are such an amazing woman. And Tori, I just love you to no end. You are fabulous, and I'm so proud to be among you all.
Thank you, Mama Gloria, for that amazing response. So now we're gonna direct the conversation to some audience questions. And first, I wanted to start with something that I feel is very vital to answer. So I want to direct this to all of you guys, and maybe all of you guys can answer. It depends if you want to or not. So what do you see as the path forward in combating, preventing, and seeking justice for the murders of so many Black trans women?
Well, that's a huge one. I think it's a good start that we're going to have a new president who gets it and who has mentioned transgender people in his victory speech. He has said he's going to restore some rights and protections for trans people as soon as he's in office. He's aware of the importance of the Equality Act, because I think so often discrimination and violence go hand in hand. So, you know, Tori can probably speak to this more. The statistics are not great, particularly for Black trans people, Black trans women, in terms of homelessness, joblessness, access to medical care, including very important mental health care. All of these things have an impact on what ultimately places, I think, Black trans women in very vulnerable positions where they are vulnerable to violence. And I think, you know, what Mama Gloria's story shows very much is that even though she did experience traumatic violence, she had a family who loved and supported her and went to court with her as she testified against her attackers, and they did what they could to nurture her mental health after that experience. So I really do think support, family support, is crucial, number one. And then the support that Mama Gloria gives to her chosen children, I think, is a real example of how community can also step in and create that safety net so that our folks are not vulnerable to the violence.
So I certainly concur with all of that. And I'd add to it, as women, we have to navigate systems that weren't created for us. As women of color, we have to navigate systems that weren't created for us as Black women. And as trans women, we have to navigate systems that were not created for us. And I tend to believe that the more commas that you use to describe yourself, which we could call intersectionality, the more commas you use to describe yourself, the more difficult you're going to have navigating all of these systems that weren't created for any of those multiple identities. And so one of the things that certainly for folks like us with similar experiences of Black womanhood, however you got to your Black womanhood, is that options are important. Options, when we talked about born families as opposed to chosen families, or in addition to chosen families, suddenly you have options. When you talk about meaningful employment and being able to live comfortably and safely in any neighborhood you want to, options. When we talk about having the protection of your family, if you needed to fight, they were going to fight with you or for you. Options. And so unfortunately, and certainly over the last 4 years, but many folks who have similar lived experiences as us, the 36 or 37 trans folks that we've reported on this year at HRC who've been killed, probably many of them had fewer options than those of us that are on this call. And so as we continue to work, as Mama Gloria's life is an example of, as you will see, Gia, as you continue to navigate it, certainly all the privilege that I step into this conversation, Luchina and I at our age, I'm older than you, but still in our age group. Options are really, really important. And so we need to continue to be able to provide and make options for those trans folks and non-binary folks who are coming behind us. The more options they have, perhaps the less risky situations that they will have to involve themselves in. Perhaps we know that of all the Black trans women that have been killed, the majority of them knew the person. They had some type of relationship with the person who killed them. And so perhaps we're able to make better, our options will be better with the folks with whom we share relationship. I'll say it that way. And so all of that, it just plays, all of us want to get to 75 and we want to wish Mama Gloria many more years of happiness and great health and more options. And we want that for so many of us. I think many folks, when folks feel they have fewer options, it means that they have to make riskier decisions. And we don't want that for our folks. We want folks to have the same and even more opportunities than we did.
Now, I'm so happy you said that about options and stuff. As a Black trans woman, I see things, I listen, and I learn. We have choices to make, and we need to make good choices because, everybody wants love, but sometimes a trans woman, and I'm not saying all of them, lead themselves in the wrong direction of a mate, and the mate that they spend their time with, he's out to get them for their money. Okay, it might be for the sex, and men have an ego, and they get distraught about it. They meet a beautiful trans woman, they like her, but the trans woman is not truthful with them. She doesn't expose herself to him like she should have. And she ends up being mutilated or her throat cut and left for dead. And the city, they don't help us. They laugh and they say, well, that's another day a trans girl gone, and they move on to someone else and probably end up doing the same thing to them. And I've always been honest and upfront with the men I meet. And I tell them, if you want to be with me, you got to respect me and love me like I'm supposed to be. But I ran into a bad relationship. For 10 years, I was with this man. He worked, he gave me money. He did a lot of wonderful things for the first 5 years. Then he ended up doing drugs, and that altered his mind, and he turned against me and left me for dead. But by the grace of God, it wasn't my time. And that man, although he did bad things to me, I still have a heart for him. I love him. But coming up as a kid, and guys would see I had feminine tendencies, and they were turned on by it. Men are not going to tell you that, but they're turned on by it. So I was raped by my babysitter. She had a 17-year-old son. She went out, and I remember it so well. He would attack me every day. And I didn't know what was going on because I was like 5 or 6 years old. I didn't know who was I going to tell. I couldn't go to my family and tell them, But the policeman and everything, I kept that a secret with me for years. And I finally told my mother about it. And my mother told me, you should have came to me and we could have done something about it. Probably, yes. But I didn't want my mother to get hurt accusing this 17-year-old man about molesting me. And then I was in high school, and sure, I was sexy looking and and just built up like a girl. So the boys, it was 3 boys in high school, and they saw me walking down the street with my cousin, and my little brother. And I thought they were going to mess with my cousin, Charlotte, but they didn't. They told them to go on and had me there. And they did what they wanted to me. And my father caught one of the guys, and he was getting ready to smash his neck down on a barbed wire fence. And I pleaded to my dad, don't do that, because if you do that, you're gonna go to jail and I won't have a dad. But going to the court system here in Chicago, the police, they didn't do nothing. They laughed about it. I was a joke, a dirty joke. That's the way they treated me. But I went through some emotional problems, and my mother, my grandmother, my great aunt, they helped me to navigate through this, and I did. And we need better protection as a trans woman, as a trans male. And society need to step up to the plate, because we are some amazing people. We're smart, you know, and we do wonderful things. And I'm so happy that I'm still alive and able to talk about it, because I'm not going to let nobody mistreat my children. And that's my babies, all of them. If they're out there laying behind a garbage dumpster, I come up in my apartment and cook a good meal and take it to them, because I know they haven't had anything to eat. And I had one child to tell me, Mama Glory, you are so amazing. And I know I am, because God put me here to protect my babies.
Thank you, Mama Gloria, for that. And definitely and I'm so sorry that you've had to go and struggle with so much violence in your past, but it's so amazing to see that you've endured all this and you've been able to still be such an amazing and prominent example for young trans people like me. And it's so amazing that I have someone to look up to, and someone has paved the path for me so I can be accepted in my community. And I'm just so grateful for that. So unfortunately, we don't have much time left, and there's a lot of questions that I wanted to get to, but I'm sorry that we couldn't. So if you guys have questions for us, don't be afraid to contact us on social media or reach out and just direct message us. And I know personally I would love to answer your questions, and I'm guessing all the panelists would too. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for attending tonight. And it really meant a lot to me and all the panelists. And yeah, so I hope you all have a good evening. And I really hope that you enjoyed your time here. Bye.
Great job, Gia.